The small research station on the edge of Mars was usually quiet. The red dust outside the window never stopped dancing. It moved with the wind, whispering against the glass panels of the dome. Inside, machines hummed softly, monitors blinked with blue lights, and the air recycling unit hissed like a calm breath. For Dr. Adrian Cole, this was normal. Peaceful, even. Every morning he woke up before the others. He liked to watch the Martian sunrise through the observation window. The faint light would touch the horizon, painting the sky from black to orange. It was a sight that reminded him how far humanity had come, from walking on Earth's soil to breathing inside domes on another planet. Humans were not supposed to be here, but they were, and that, Adrian believed, was something to be proud of. He sipped his warm coffee slowly, the steam fogging his glasses. The silence was deep but comforting, until the door opened. She walked in. A woman in a long white suit entered the lab. Her steps were soft, her movement calm. Yet something about her felt different, like the air around her changed as she moved. Adrian had never seen her before. Every member of the Mars research unit had been there for at least a year. But this woman, he didn't remember seeing her face in any report or mission log. For a brief moment, it felt like the world outside the window had frozen. The dust stopped moving. The sky paused mid-glow. Even the hum of the machines seemed to fade. Adrian blinked and looked outside again. Everything was still. It was as if Mars itself had forgotten to breathe. He turned back to the woman. She was looking at the observation glass too, with a strange calm smile. "Good morning," she said softly. Her voice was warm but echoing, as if she were speaking through more than just air. Adrian nodded slowly. "Morning. Are you with the new supply crew?" She smiled again. "Something like that." He felt a quiet unease, though not from fear. It was more like curiosity pressing against the edge of his mind. He set down his coffee and studied her closely. Her suit wasn't like any human design he knew. It had no visible seams, no oxygen tubes, no helmet connection. It shimmered faintly, like light reflecting off still water. Outside the window, the world still hadn't moved. Adrian walked to the control console. He checked the sensors. The wind speed outside read 000. The temperature, pressure, and even dust levels were all frozen mid-measurement. He tapped the screen, thinking it was a malfunction. It didn't respond. The station's time counter wasn't moving either. He turned back. "Something's wrong with the systems," he said. "It's like everything outside has stopped." The woman looked at him. "Yes," she said quietly. "It has," Adrian frowned. "What do you mean, it has?" She walked closer and he noticed her eyes. They were not just blue, they shimmered like stars. Tiny sparkles of light moved within them as if galaxies swirled behind her pupils. "I needed the world to stop," she said softly. "Just for a while." Adrian took a small step back, his scientific mind racing. "Are you saying you caused this?" "I didn't cause it," she said. "I asked it." He stared at her, unsure how to respond. The logical part of him wanted to believe this was some kind of test or illusion, but deep down he could feel it. Something about her wasn't ordinary. She wasn't just another human scientist. The woman moved to the window, placing her hand gently on the glass. Outside, the red dust remained frozen mid-air, tiny grains suspended like stars in a crimson sea. She turned her head slightly toward him. "Do you know what happens when a planet forgets to turn?" she asked. "No," Adrian replied carefully. "It remembers," she said, "and in that remembering, everything slows down until it listens." Her words didn't make sense, not to his science at least. But her tone was sincere, almost sad. Adrian found himself asking, "Who are you?" She smiled faintly. "Someone who listens when the universe speaks." For a moment, silence wrapped around them again. The world outside remained still, and time felt like a painting, unmoving, eternal. Then, slowly, Adrian noticed something else. The monitors on the wall were flickering, not randomly but in patterns. Lines of data were appearing, symbols he had never seen before. They were moving in spirals like constellations forming on the screen. He stepped closer. "What is this?" She glanced at the display. "It's communication. You humans call it data, but it's more than that. It's memory. The memory of this world." Adrian felt a chill run down his spine. "You mean Mars?" She nodded. "Yes. You came here to study it, but you never thought to ask it what it remembers. Adrian looked out the window again, speechless. For years, humans had searched for life on Mars, water, microbes, fossils, but never had anyone imagined the planet itself could be aware. He turned back to her. You stopped time to speak with Mars? Her eyes met his, and in that gaze he saw something ancient, something older than stars. Not time, she said softly. Perception. I slowed what you see so that you could listen. Adrian's hands trembled slightly as he leaned against the console. Why me? Because you were already listening, she said simply. Even when you thought you were just watching the sunrise. Those words struck him deeply. Every morning he had stared at the horizon, feeling something unexplainable. A pull, a quiet song in the light. And now, hearing her say this, he realized it wasn't his imagination. He looked outside again, and for a heartbeat, he thought he could see something in the still dust. Shapes, faint outlines. Maybe memories of an ancient time when Mars had oceans and life. It was beautiful and haunting at once. Will it start again? He asked quietly. When it's ready, she replied. Adrian turned back to her, questions filling his mind, about who she was, what she wanted, and how she had done this. But before he could ask, she stepped closer and placed a hand gently on his shoulder. Don't be afraid of silence, she said. Sometimes it's the only way to hear the truth. Then, without another word, she walked toward the exit. As the door slid open, the air seemed to move again. The hum of machines returned. The dust outside began to fall, and the sun continued its slow climb across the Martian sky. The world had started again. Adrian stood alone, staring at the empty doorway. For a long moment, he didn't move. The coffee on his desk was cold, the monitors now quiet. Yet inside him, something had changed, something awake, something listening. He walked back to the window and looked out. The dust swirled once more, but it no longer looked the same. It looked alive, like a whisper waiting to be heard. He smiled faintly. Whoever you are, he whispered, I'm listening. And as he spoke, the faintest shimmer passed through the horizon, as if the planet had heard him too. For days after that strange morning, Dr. Adrian Cole could not focus on his work. Every time he looked at the red horizon, he remembered her words. Sometimes silence is the only way to hear the truth. The woman had vanished as suddenly as she appeared. No record existed of her arrival. The security cameras showed nothing but a few seconds of static. When he asked the others, they all said the same thing. No one came in that morning. Yet Adrian remembered her clearly, her soft voice, her shimmering eyes, the stillness of the world when she spoke. He had checked every log, every file, every system report, but nothing explained the frozen time or the unknown data that appeared on his screens. Still, something inside him whispered that it hadn't been a dream. Every evening, after his team finished work, Adrian stayed behind in the observation room. He sat by the large window, notebook in hand, waiting. The dust storms outside came and went, and the Martian wind howled softly against the glass. But she didn't return. On the fourth night, as he sat in silence, he noticed something new. The hum of the machines began to shift. It wasn't random. It sounded like a rhythm, slow, steady, almost musical. He turned toward the console. The main monitor flickered with light. At first it seemed like noise, but the lines began to form shapes. Curves, spirals, repeating circles. Adrian recognized them at once. It was the same strange pattern he had seen the day she appeared. He leaned forward, whispering, "Is that you?" The lines pulsed gently like a heartbeat. Adrian stared, unsure if it was real communication or just his imagination playing tricks. But then the screen changed again. This time letters began to form. Not English, not any known language. They glowed for a few seconds before transforming into words he could read. "Can you hear me now?" Adrian froze. His heart pounded. Slowly he typed back on the console. "Who are you?" A pause. The reply came after a few seconds. "The one who walked in when the world stopped?" Adrian took a deep breath. "You," he whispered. "You're inside the system now." "I am not inside," she replied. "I am between." "Between what?" Adrian typed quickly. "Between what you see and what you never tried to see." Her words confused him, but at the same time they stirred something deeper. A sense that she was speaking from a place beyond human understanding. You said you came to listen to Mars, Adrian typed. What does that mean? It means your world is not alone, came the soft, glowing text. Every planet remembers what it once was. Mars remembers warmth, rivers, and songs. But no one listened. You built machines to measure, but not to hear. Adrian looked out at the barren landscape, the endless red plains. It was hard to imagine that this silent desert had ever known rivers or wind that carried sound. Why me? He asked again. Because you were already hearing its echo, she wrote. You watched without asking for proof. Adrian smiled faintly.
So what happens now?
There was a long pause. The lights on the console dimmed, then brightened again. Now you listen again. Mars wants to speak. For the next few nights, Adrian kept the communication open. Every time he connected to the main system, she was there. Sometimes she spoke through words, sometimes through patterns and lights that pulsed like quiet music. She told him stories, not in human language, but in waves of thought. Through her, he saw visions of ancient Mars, wide blue seas, forests under pink skies, creatures that looked like flowing light, and cities made of crystal dust. He could feel the warmth of the sun as it had once shone on that living world. He could hear a deep voice, not like a human voice, but like the voice of the ground itself, slow, gentle, endless. It was the planet remembering itself, and through it all, she guided him. This is not just history, she told him one night. This is memory. Mars never died, it sleeps. Humans came with noise and drills, and the planet stayed quiet. But now that you are here, it begins to wake again. Adrian's eyes filled with wonder. Wake, you mean it can live again? Life never left, she said. It only waits for those who can see it. One morning, the research team discovered something unusual in the soil samples Adrian had collected.
Inside one of the containers, a thin blue glow pulsed like a heartbeat.
It wasn't chemical or mechanical, it was alive. The others gathered around the sample, amazed. What is this? Asked Dr. Morgan, the station's biologist. I don't know, Adrian said softly, though part of him already did. They ran every test. But the results were strange. The energy signature didn't match any known compound. It responded to sound, to light, even to human touch. When Adrian whispered near the sample, the glow brightened slightly as if it understood. That night he returned alone to the lab. The glow was still there, gentle and beautiful. He switched on the console. You found it? Her words appeared on the screen. Adrian nodded. What is it? A seed, she said. A piece of what Mars used to be. You heard its call and so it revealed itself. Can it grow? Adrian asked. If you learn to listen completely, Adrian smiled sadly. I don't know how to do that. Then I will teach you, she replied. Over the next few weeks, she guided him through patterns, sounds, and rhythms. She taught him to speak with the planet not through words, but through resonance, humming frequencies that matched the silent pulse beneath the ground. He built a small device based on her instructions, a simple harmonic generator that emitted low sound waves. When he placed it near the soil sample, the blue light expanded, spreading across the surface like gentle ripples in water. The next morning, when the others entered the lab, they were speechless. The red soil in the container had begun to change color. Faint streaks of green shimmered through it, as if something was growing beneath. Is this life? Then Morgan asked. Adrian smiled. Yes, he said softly. And it's listening. But not everyone was pleased. The commander of the station, Captain Reeves, was cautious by nature. He saw danger in what he couldn't explain. Cole, he said sternly, you're dealing with something we don't understand. If this spreads beyond containment, it could be dangerous. It's not dangerous, Adrian replied calmly. It's communication. It's Mars responding. Responding? Reeves frowned. To what? To being heard, Adrian said simply. Reeves didn't believe him. He ordered the experiment shut down until Earth Command could review it. That night, Adrian sat in the dark lab, staring at the sealed container. The faint glow of the soil still shone through the glass. He felt a quiet sadness. He turned on the console again. They want to stop it, he typed. They fear what they don't hear, she replied gently. But you must not let the silence fall again. What should I do? Adrian asked. Trust the voice beneath the dust, she wrote. The planet remembers you now. Suddenly the lights flickered. The hum of the machines changed pitch, vibrating softly through the floor. The ground outside trembled just enough for him to feel it, not like an earthquake, but like a slow awakening breath. Adrian looked out the window. The horizon glowed faintly blue, and tiny particles of light drifted upward from the ground, floating into the thin air like dust made of stars. He whispered, "It's alive." The console glowed again, her final words for the night appearing one by one. It always was. You just needed to stop the world long enough to see. Adrian stood by the window, watching the glow spread quietly across the distant plains. He didn't know what would happen next, but he knew one thing. Humanity had not just found Mars. Mars had found them. And somewhere beyond time, the woman's soft voice echoed, calm, patient, and full of quiet joy. The world stopped once so you could listen. Now it begins again, and this time it remembers. The weeks passed slowly, yet each day felt larger than the last. Dr. Adrian Cole spent hours with the soil sample, the harmonic generator, and the console where her words continued to appear. The mysterious woman had not returned physically, but her presence lingered like a gentle shadow, guiding him and encouraging him to listen. The Martian horizon had begun to change. Tiny blue and green glimmers appeared in the dust, barely noticeable at first. They seemed alive, moving subtly as if responding to the pulses from the generator. Adrian's heart raced every time he watched them. The planet was waking, yet the station was uneasy. Captain Reeves still insisted on containment and strict monitoring. "This is science, not magic, Cole," he reminded. "We follow protocols. We cannot take risks with the unknown." Adrian nodded outwardly but secretly continued his work at night. He had learned that Mars didn't rush. It only responded to those who were patient and willing to understand, and he was ready to listen completely. One night, Adrian returned to the observation window. The wind outside had softened, the red dust drifting lazily. The horizon shimmered faintly blue. He turned on the console. "It is time," her words appeared. He typed back instinctively. "Time for what?" "Time to meet what has always been here." The lights in the lab dimmed, and for the first time the shimmering soil sample began to rise slightly, as if pulled by invisible hands. The particles of light hovered over the container, slowly forming shapes. Not random patterns, but figures, gentle and familiar. Adrian stepped closer, amazed. The shapes solidified into outlines of trees, rivers, and small creatures made of light. They moved delicately like shadows in a dream. The colors glowed softly against the red Martian plains, painting the horizon with life that had not been seen for millions of years. "It remembers," she typed. "Yes," Adrian whispered. "It remembers everything. And it remembers you." Suddenly, a soft hum filled the room. It was different from before, deeper, warmer, like the heartbeat of an entire planet. Adrian realized it was coming from the ground outside. He stepped onto the observation deck, feeling vibrations through the soles of his boots. The dust outside swirled gently, responding to the hum, lifting and falling in rhythm. "Do you see?" she asked. "I see," he typed. "It's alive. All of it. Not just alive," her words glowed. "It is conscious. And it is ready to share." Adrian felt a strange exhilaration. Humanity had explored Mars with rovers, sensors, and drills. They had mapped its surface, measured its soil, and analyzed its atmosphere. But no one had ever truly heard it. No one had ever listened. Until now. "Why me?" Adrian typed again. "Why me alone?" "Because you are human," she replied. "And humans can hear with more than ears. You can hear with hope, imagination, and wonder. That is why." Adrian smiled, feeling warmth spread through him. He looked at the glowing shapes of ancient Martian life outside, and for the first time he truly understood. Humans were not just visitors here. They could become friends of the planet, companions who could help it remember itself. The next morning, Adrian called a meeting with Captain Reeves and the rest of the station crew. For once, he did not wait for their approval. He shared what he had seen, felt, and learned. He took them to the observation window, showing the faint glimmers of green and blue spreading slowly across the plains. The soil sample hummed gently, responding to his voice and the harmonic generator. "Do you see this?" Adrian asked. "Mars is alive. It remembers, and it is trying to communicate with us." The crew was skeptical at first. They had been trained to trust data, charts, and instruments, not visions. But when they looked at the patterns in the dust, the slow glowing shapes and the gentle rise of the particles. Doubt turned into awe. Even Captain Reeves could not deny it. The stoic commander stared at the horizon. His usual frown softened. It's beautiful, he said quietly. I don't understand it, but it's real. Adrian smiled. We don't need to understand it fully yet. We just need to listen. That is how it begins. Over the next weeks, the station crew learned to listen. They followed Adrian's guidance using the harmonic generator to communicate with the soil, the dust, and the air. Slowly, the planet began to respond more visibly. Glimmers of light moved like living rivers across the plains. The red dust shimmered with hints of blue, green, and gold. Patterns emerged, symbols, lines, and spirals, messages that conveyed joy, memory, and welcome. The scientists documented it all. Every pulse, every glow, every vibration was recorded. It was like observing an entire world coming back to life, but not with humans controlling it, with humans listening. And somewhere in the middle of it all, Adrian felt her presence again. Though she never appeared physically, he sensed her guiding him, a quiet voice whispering through the patterns. This is only the beginning, she typed once. The world outside the window is waking. And so are you. Adrian nodded, smiling at the console. We are ready. One evening, as the sun set behind the Martian horizon, the shimmer of life outside reached a new level. The glowing shapes formed a pattern resembling a spiral galaxy, spinning slowly in the air. Adrian watched in amazement as the colors shifted, blues, greens, golds, blending with the red dust to create something neither planet nor human alone could claim. It was beauty. It was intelligence. It was Mars itself speaking and humans listening. Do you understand now? Her words appeared. Yes, Adrian typed slowly. It is alive. It is aware. It is everything. And it has chosen you, she replied. Humans are not just visitors. You are partners. You are the ones who can remind planets of their memory, who can protect life, and who can help the universe remember itself. Adrian felt tears in his eyes. I will try, he whispered. We will try. You will, she said. Because when the world stops, only humans can hear what matters most. The final weeks of the mission passed with wonder and discovery. The crew documented lifelike patterns spreading across Mars. Tiny plants and organisms began appearing, growing in harmony with the pulses from the harmonic generator. The air inside the dome seemed lighter, fresher. Even the horizon outside seemed to hum softly, a quiet song that only those who listened carefully could hear. Adrian often returned to the observation window at night, staring at the horizon and remembering the first moment she had walked in. How simple it had seemed. One woman, one step. Yet how profound it had become. He understood now that humans had not conquered Mars, nor had they needed to. Instead, they had learned to listen, to hear, and to care. And in return, Mars had shared its memory, its life, and its joy. On the last day of the mission, as the crew prepared to depart for the orbiting shuttle, Adrian walked alone to the observation window one final time. The dust outside shimmered gently in the early light. He touched the glass, imagining the pulse beneath the surface, the quiet heartbeat of a planet waking. He whispered softly, "Thank you." For a moment, nothing happened. Then a faint shimmer of light passed through the horizon, moving toward him like a wave. He smiled. Somewhere, somehow, she was smiling too. The world stops so you can listen. Her words appeared one last time. But now it begins forever. Adrian stepped back, feeling a sense of peace unlike any he had ever known. Humanity had found Mars, yes, but more importantly, Mars had found humanity. And together they had begun a new story. The shuttle doors opened, and the crew boarded. Adrian took one last look at the horizon. The world outside the window was no longer still. It moved, it breathed, and it glimmered with life. And in that moment, he understood. The universe was vast, mysterious, and full of wonder. But humans had a unique gift, the ability to listen, to care, and to awaken worlds. With a deep breath, Adrian stepped onto the shuttle, carrying with him the memory of a planet, a guide who had changed everything, and the quiet knowledge that sometimes all it takes is one step, one listener, to remind a world of who it truly is. And somewhere in the endless expanse, the horizon shimmered alive with promise.